Hi, my name's Chris and I'm a programmer in the UK, and I wanted to make a little video letter about an internet censorship idea that's currently being passed through government and pushed for by David Cameron. So the idea of this system, if you're not aware, is that internet providers will automatically block certain websites that contain adult content unless you explicitly ask them not to. Which sounds fine. Surely stopping children seeing adult content is a good thing. Well, the goal may be very admirable, but the results are far from good. And you really need to understand the technicalities of the problem in order to see why that is the case. So I thought I'd explain them. So, the problem starts with a simple question of what's actually adult content. Porn obviously is, but what about more general websites containing adult content or content of a sexual nature? Porn's the extreme end, but the reality is that 99% of internet content falls into a much greyer area. For example, where do you place a website full of 19th century artwork that contains some nude lady paintings? Or how do you categorize YouTube or Wikipedia or any other user-generated content that contains a wealth of really useful information or educational content, but inevitably ends up with a small amount of what you'd classify as adult content being shared? And then you've got sex ed websites. Should a teenager be allowed to ask the internet about contraceptives? Probably depends on your beliefs, your answer to that question, but the point is that it's pretty much impossible to define any set of rules that nail what our children should or shouldn't be able to see. And even if you could nail a set of rules, given every parent has their own opinions on how to bring up their child, you couldn't create one that even the majority were actually happy with. So we've got one issue: what to filter. It's clearly really important, really difficult, and perhaps one that a really responsible group of clever people who were parents, who had extensive experience rating content, could solve it. But it'd be a really difficult one, and it would never be fully correct. If for no other reason than the fact that they'd be trying to say yes or no to something, and in reality yes for a 6-year-old is different to yes for a 13-year-old, and yes for one parent is difficult to yes for another. So the next issue is that the internet is vast, incredibly vast, and it changes constantly, thousands of times per second, millions of websites, and there is absolutely no way a group of intelligent, responsible people large enough exists that to be able to rate every site on the internet as and when it changes. So you'd have to get a computer to do it. And I can tell you as a programmer, computers are not intelligent. They are not responsible, they have no idea of what sexual means, and they really don't give a shit about your children. All they do is what a programmer tells them to do. They can filter out everything with the word sex in, but as any specialist in language will tell you, content is everything. You need to understand a sentence to classify it. For example, the sex of a duck can be determined by the colour of its feathers is not a sexual sentence, but a computer would have to assume it was. And as a programmer, I can say that with absolute certainty that we really do not have the technology to algorithmically filter content, especially image content, into safe or unsafe for children. So now the problem's pretty big. Not only is it virtually impossible to actually classify what is unsafe or safe, it's entirely impossible with our current technology to actually do it with a computer, and you would have to have a computer do it. So how would David Cameron have to proceed? Well, the only solution is to be incredibly overzealous. So you'd filter YouTube just in case there was some adult content on it. You'd remove any pages containing the word sex just in case it was adult content. A user-generated encyclopedia, or even a normal encyclopedia that had a section on the human reproductive system, would probably contain some rude words, such as penis. So you'd filter it. And suddenly every single child is cut off from a beautiful and huge and wonderful collection of information that is really at the heart of our society and every industry and educational system in the modern world. This is a resource that is, while has some bad things on it is probably one of the greatest achievements of modern society. And we're talking about cutting children off from a vast section of it. That alone is enough for me to make this a bad idea. We have to fail to filter what actually needs filtering, or we have to filter far more than we actually want to filter. But I understand that not everybody would feel that way, so let's assume for the moment that we accept the massively overzealous option. Because I'm sure some parents will feel that their children are too precious and innocent to actually risk, and it's better that they see nothing on the internet and that they lose out on certain resources than it is to risk them seeing something nasty. And I can understand that point of view. It's not mine, but I understand it. Well, the problem is that this system is trivial to circumvent, and there would be financial incentive for any porn site creator to circumvent it, because they want as many people to be able to see their website as possible. That's how they make their money. Adverts, and even parents, or, well, ultimately it is key to any website to make as many people see it as possible. Not being filtered is going to be top of their list, and it's very easy to do. All you really have to do is start by replacing naughty words with similar words that aren't actually naughty. I could replace the word sex with the letters SX. To a human, that obviously still means sex. To a computer, it doesn't. And you can actually you can take this idea to an extreme, and as an attacker you can circumvent the system very easily by effectively creating two websites, testporn.com and porn.com. Whenever you make a change, you upload that change to testporn.com. You test it by trying to go to it on an internet connection that is filtered. If it gets past the filter, you copy testporn.com to porn.com, and suddenly you know that your primary website that you want people to see is always visible and never goes down and is never filtered. Ultimately what it comes down to is what's called a 1,000,000-to-1 issue that pops up in security systems that protect computers all over the world. And it's basically, for every one person that's going to be attempting to write some super clever protecting computers ultra system, there'll be thousands of people that are attempting to work around it, and thousands of people will always win by pure force of numbers. So not only have we stripped away a really wonderful resource from our children, we've also failed to achieve the original goal while simultaneously falsely informing parents that their children are safe. So in summary, protecting children is clearly a really important thing to do, but the issue with this system is that it simply can't work, and not only will it actually fail to achieve its goal, it will have an immensely negative impact on our society, and worst of all, instill parents with a false sense of security, thinking their children are safe when they are not, which makes the internet far more dangerous. There really is only one way to protect your child online, and it's the same system you'd use to stop them reading naughty books, or viewing naughty movies, or playing adult games. You monitor what they do, you tell them off when they do something wrong, and you explain why it's wrong in the hope that they choose off their own back to avoid it in the future. Give them the tools to defend themselves. The system doesn't always work, but it will work a whole lot better than trying to ask a computer to do it for you. Internet censorship is not only a really dangerous path to go down, it is a path that actually just doesn't work. So if you agree with any of this, I'd implore you, pass it on and sign the petition at the bottom of this video, in the hope that we can get the message through to government that enough people disagree with it to can it before it causes our society serious damage. Thank you.